Hi, I'm Lisa from sewnglife.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how I transform a jacket that I bought from a charity shop a few years ago into this messenger bag. For this project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this coat that I bought from a charity shop quite a few years ago, and I'm going to turn it into a messenger bag. I want to use this front piece here for the front flap because I want to see the pockets and these buttons. I want it to look like it's come from a coat. I'll use this back piece for the body, so it'll sort of be half of that, so those two pieces will go together, and then really that's all I've got at the moment. I'm going to, rather than just cut this fabric here and lose the fabric that's inside here of this as the seam, I'm actually going to undo this seam and see how much fabric there is in the turning, because the reason I'm doing that is that this pocket is actually quite close to the edge, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to lose any fabric that I've got inside and make it like a little bit too tight to turn. So so I can see that that's actually going to be worth me doing, because when I look at how much fabric there is inside, look, probably like another good centimetre, so it's worth me actually saving that. So I'm going to unpick this seam here so that I can use all of this little fabric here. So I also decided that I'm going to unpick this seam here at the top by the sleeve, because this back area goes narrower where the sleeves are set in, so I want that extra width, so I'm going to unpick this sleeve area as well. I've actually just found a dry cleaning ticket in here, and this was from November 2012. So when I wash it, what I'm going to do, it says dry clean only, but I'm going to put it in the washing machine on a wool cycle and see what happens. Okay, so I've got the first arm off, taken the first arm off, but what I want to do is I want to use this lining inside to actually line the bag, because it goes really nicely and it means that I won't have to buy any. So I'm going to get this lining out, undo this lining. I'm going to unpick this as well so that the whole arm comes off, so that when it goes into the machine, all these disintegrated bits will have a real good wash. Okay, I've changed my mind with how I'm going to deal with this lining. I'm actually going to cut the lining, because I'm not probably going to use all of the sleeve at this stage, so I'm just going to cut it because it's quicker. So the first sleeve is away from the body. I'm going to put that there and then take the next one off. Right, so I've just been out and given this a really good shake to get all these disintegrated little bits off. And what I've now got is I've now got two sleeves with linings attached that are separate. So now that I've got those there, what I now want to do is I now want to separate a few more bits of the jacket. I think I am going to just cut the lining up, so I've got one massive piece. Now I'm just going to separate the back from the front. It's literally going to cut across the shoulders, and then this is round the back of the collar. I'm keeping it close to the edge though. And then back across the other collar, the other shoulder. And now, oh no, need to cut the lining as well, don't I? And back of the neck, back down the shoulder. And then I should have two completely separate pieces. Yay! Okay, so what I have now is the front of the coat, so that's good. That's going to allow me to work out how to use this bit for the front. And then I've got the back piece, so that's going to allow me to know how much my actual body can be. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these in the washing machine and give them a wash. So this is the front piece now, and this is going to be the flap at the front. Now, what I feel is that this is too wide. So can you see the buttons are underneath here? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this further over. So I'll take these buttons off and reposition them there. And I think I will cut the flap just underneath that third buttonhole. And then this is going to be sort of rounded here. So what it will give me is it's slightly off center with the buttons not now in the middle. But I don't mind that, that's okay, because I think that that's a better width. And then what I'll do is I'll sew down there where the seam already is to keep those pieces together and make sure they're secure. And then I think I'll need to attach it there as well. So I think what I'll have to do is I'll also, because otherwise it'll flap about, I'll also do a line of stitching to secure that at the back as well. So I just need to do a check because this is going to be my body. So this is the back of the coat and this is going to be the body, and the width of the body just needs to be about 2.5-ish centimetres wider than the flap. So that's okay, that's going to work. So if I get rid of this now, if you can see here, what I've got is where the armholes were here and here, it's actually not the full width. And that is going to be a problem. So what I've decided that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to straighten that off there, and I'm going to add a strip of the same fabric there, and I'm going to do the same there. Now, I don't think that's going to be a problem, because what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm actually going to add some wadding onto the body to make it a little bit more solid, and I'm going to quilt that following these lines. So I think that it will be quite well disguised when I add this piece, these strips on here. I am going to straighten off that top edge. I'm going to cut this in half now. Cut this off here. Same on the other side. What I need to do is I need to fill that panel in there, and I need to fill that panel in there. Now I'm probably going to use the arm fabric to do that. What I'll need to do is make sure that I cut it out so that the pattern is running the same way. So yeah, I should have enough to cut out of the sleeve there for both edges. And I need to make sure that I have that width plus another 2 centimetres, sorry, another 1 centimetre, so that for the turning, the selvage there. Cut this sleeve up. So this looks like I could use this side bit here. What I mustn't forget is I need to match the pattern up. Perfect. Okay, that's the first one. That's going to be my second one. I'm going to just sew those 2 pieces. So I now have 2 pieces of fabric that are the same size for the body. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the buttons off, because the buttons are going to come back and sit in here, because remember I moved this across. But what I want to do is I'm going to sew all the way down there, and I'm going to sew up there as well, and that is actually where the back bit is attached. Okay, and I'm doing that so that it's all one solid piece, so it doesn't sort of flap around. Okay, buttons off. Just before I sew that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attach my Velcro. So the Velcro is going to have a piece there and then a piece there. So if I sew that there now, if I sew that onto there now, I can make sure that it doesn't have the stitching there. So I'll just undo this bit. Okay, so I will sew it onto that bit only, and then when that gets attached, that means that's all secure, but you don't see the Velcro stitching. So I'm really happy with how that's turned out. Wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I'm very pleased with that actually. So next step is to sew these buttons on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them so that the blue line runs through the buttons. Okay. I've just made a decision now to Velcro these flaps shut. The reason for that is that when it's sort of stood up, the pockets are sitting out, sort of sticking out quite a bit, and I thought about doing a line of stitching, a line of top stitching there, but then I thought if I do that, I think that that will still kick out. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to add Velcro, a sort of a longish piece of Velcro, and I'm going to add that under each of the pockets so that they both sit flat. What I've got a bit of a problem now with is the pockets that sit behind here. So you probably can't tell from here, but when I turn it round, can you see that there's a lot of bulk here? And when I look underneath these pockets, they are very, very close to this line of stitching. So that is never going to sit flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off some of that pocket. So I'm going to trim off some of that excess fabric there, and I'm also going to do the same here because I don't want all of this bulk right next to this seam that I'm going to sew. A lot of fabric there. Now that, you just see how it just sits better there. I'm just going to cut some off there. And that just sits so much better. So it sits flat, it doesn't rub up against that, and it gives me a little bit more space at the side. One of the last things that I need to do now is sew these sides together. So this is one complete enclosed flap. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo a little bit of this top stitching, and then I will very carefully, it's going to be a bit tricky, but I'm going to sew the lining and the side together, and then I'm going to round off that corner, and then when I turn it inside out I'll top stitch it. Right, let's have a look what it looks like. Hope it looks nice. That looks good. I'm going to go in now, go back in, and I'm going to cut off the corner bit, and then I'm going to use that as the template for the other side, because what I need is I need both of these pieces, sorry, both of these corners to be exactly the same shape, otherwise it'll look silly. So next is top stitching. That will just give that a really nice edge. This is ready now. The front flap is pretty much complete. It's all enclosed and the corners match, pockets velcroed, this is all secure, and then on the back that's all tied in. Just going to do a quick iron of these seams that I sewed earlier, just to make them completely flat. They'll just look better because I'm about to attach the wadding. Right, what I've got here is some polyester wadding, and that's going to go on the back side, so on the wrong side of the two pieces of the bag. Now this is going to be so that it will give it like a bit of weight. I've never used this before. In all the years that I've been sewing, I have never used this, so I'm quite interested to see what it's going to be like. I think you can buy fusible webbing, but where the shop that I went to didn't have any, so I've bought this one. But because I think that if I just had that inside the lining, so if I just had the outer, the webbing and the lining, I think that it would sort of like perhaps move about a bit. So what I've decided to do is I'm actually going to quilt this. So I'm going to stitch all across here, and I've decided that there's a red line that runs all the way through, and I'm just going to sew right the way across all of the red lines and attach this wadding to this outer fabric, and hopefully that's going to give it like a really nice quilted effect. So let's see what it's going to look like. Right, so I've pinned it all. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. So I really like the way this has turned out. It's really nice. So what I did was I started on the next one, But what I have learnt is that you need to do that way first, the horizontal lines first, because on this one I did the horizontal lines first, and you can see that all of the squares look the same. But on this one, when I've done vertical lines first, it's skewed it, look, can you see, going up and down. So what I'm going to have to do now is undo these and completely start again and go vertical first. Right sides together, so all three sides together. Three sides are sewn together, which now sort of forms a bag. What I'm going to do now though is box out the corners. So what this means is making it so that it actually can sit flat on a surface. So what you do, it's actually really simple, is you have this seam at the bottom sit on top of this side seam, so they need to sit exactly on top of each other, and then you just pin and sew across there. Now I just need to cut this end off. I'll do the same to the other side. So let's turn it inside out and have a little sneak peek of what the bag is starting to look like. Oh, that's nice. It's had a bit of a change here. What I've realised is that I want this bag to be bigger. So when I made these sides, I thought actually it's not very wide. It's not going to be wide enough, and it's not going to be deep enough, especially because it's supposed to have a laptop computer going in it and other things as well. So what I have done is I've used the sleeves, and I've cut a piece out of each of the sleeves, and then I've added some wadding onto the back. So I've done exactly the same process as I did with this bag, and top stitched it as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this on to the top of the bag so that it's a deeper bag. I'm going to make it a deeper bag, and then what I'm going to do is that will allow me to then make this deeper as well, because I want it to be wider on the bottom as well. So I want it to be wider here, so I'm going to go back and make that deeper, and I'm going to add this onto the top. So this is what it looks like. Now it's got the piece added onto the top, both sides, and it's just got a thicker side, so it's just overall bigger. So I'm going to make the lining in exactly the same way as I made the body. I'm going to use this little pocket. So this pocket is the breast pocket of the jacket, and I just thought it would be nice to use it inside the lining. So what I'm going to do is just cut it out, and then I'm going to sew it onto the inside of the lining. So I've cut this pocket out. I'm now going to put it on the right side of one of the lining pieces, just turn under the hem, and then I'll just top stitch it onto there. So that's added now, and that's going to be a really nice little pocket to use inside the lining. So you can see I've made the lining here, so I've made it exactly the same as the body. I've got the pocket inside that I added on, and then you'll see on this side that actually this is made out of 3 pieces because I didn't have a big enough piece to make the back and this side as well. So this has got 3 pieces, and the only difference is that I've left a big hole in the lining, because this is where, when the lining is attached to the body, this is where it's going to be turned inside out, and it's quite a bulky bag, so I've made sure that this is quite a big turning. So to make the strap, I'm going to use this really nice webbing that goes really nicely with it, and I've got these D-rings. What I want to do is essentially I want the D-ring at the side to be attached with some of the bag fabric like that. So that's going to go on there, and then the strap will go there. But what I want to do first is I need to just turn these hems over and sew them down so that I've got a solid piece that I can use. So I'll do that to both of the pieces. Now I'm going to attach the flap to the bag. So the right side of the flap touches the right side of the bag, and this is the back of the bag. So this just needs to be centralised, and then I'll just sew all the way down there. So the flap's attached now. It's looking good. So now let's do the strap. Change of plan. I have realised that I'm going to take these off here, off the side, because it's not particularly going to work with what I wanted to do. I'd bought this buckle because I thought I might use this buckle to make the strap adjustable. But actually, when I look at it, it doesn't really go with the rest of the bag. So I'm not going to use that plastic buckle. But I have got 2 other D-rings here. And I do want to use those to make the strap adjustable. But I think that what I need to do, I need to have the webbing coming out of the side rather than this coming out of the side. Because I think if I just put one lot of webbing into there, it won't look right. So I'm going to take both of these tabs off, and then I'm going to put some webbing there instead of those tabs. So this is the replacement now. So I'm using the webbing, and there's 2 D-rings on this side and 1 D-ring on this side. I'm going to sew across here and across here, and I've left a really long bit on both of them, because what I'm going to do is when it's turned that way up, I'm going to go over here in a square to reinforce it, because that's where it takes all of the weight. I'm going to add the lining into the bag. So the lining is the wrong side, the right side is on the inside. So I've got the bag the correct way. I'm going to put the bag inside the lining, including the flap. Okay, and then I'm just going to, these need to be down, so side bits are going to be down. I'm just going to pin this all the way around, and then I'm just going to sew it. Okay, so a moment of truth. Let's turn it inside out, see what it looks like. Oh yes, that looks good. Lining, just need to sew. So first of all, I'll sew that, top stitch that lining up, so just sew along there. I'm just going to give these a quick strengthen, so I'll sew a square with a cross in the middle. It'll make it really, really strong and sturdy. So that looks good, and it's really, really secure now. Now, just to give it a really nice finish, I'm going to top stitch all the way around there. So I'm now going to add the other piece of Velcro on. I've just pinned it, and I'm just going to take it to the sewing machine and sew around there. So I've attached the straps, which are adjustable. I've just sewn the edges and used those D-rings, and it's finished. I'm very, very happy with it. Pocket inside, so fully lined. Flap goes down, and then the back, all from a jacket. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you loved it and that you enjoyed watching the transformation. I've got lots of other videos, but if you have a look, I've got a recommendation for you here that I think you'll really love. So thank you so much for spending your time with me and watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.